Good evening. Thank you very much for staying with us here on Kivumbi 2017. An interesting day when the focus continues to be on the security situation in the country after the election. An address from the president today, and of course, what will happen tomorrow is what everybody is talking about or wondering about with respect to that statement that was promised by the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who is the NASA presidential flag bearer. But indeed, business starting to get back to normal in various cities and towns across the country. We will have that for you, including eyewitness accounts from Kibera and Mombasa slums. That continues to be our big story here on Kivumbi 2017 tonight. That story is coming up in just a short while. Welcome to the show tonight. I do want to remind you that we'll be having a conversation on this. It'll be hosted by KTN News Managing Editor Joe Ageo. We'll have Daisy Amdany, Dr. Alex Awiti, as well as Barak Muluka. That is a little later on after our news bulletin, so it's a conversation you do not want to miss. Welcome to Kivumbi 2017 tonight. Let's take a look at our top stories.
Wanarusakate nuko wanatoa mama chini ya kitanda, wakitoa nje wakipiga.
First-hand accounts of victims of terror rained on sections of Madare and Kibera slums.
If the petition is allowed, then we will have to go for another re-election for the office of the president and the deputy president.
The timelines for the operations of the different arms of government.
In the next administration, it will be gloves off, to be bare knuckles. And it doesn't matter whether you're his brother, whether you're his friend, whether you're who.
Also coming up, Uhuru Kenyatta's second chance for a greater legacy. And 12 family members are feared dead in Lamu boat tragedy. Good evening and welcome to our broadcast tonight. Our sign language interpreter is William Silla and I am Yvonne Okwara Matole. Now, on the one hand, the National Police Service has denied it. On the other, residents of Kibera and Madare maintain it is happening. Incidents of armed men in long hair have been reported by residents of Kibera and Madare slums. KTN News Crime and Investigations Desk now reports about the faces with guns raining terror on the slum residents.
At the heart of Madare slum, a mother is mourning the death of her child, an 18-year-old.
Walipiga mtoto wangu paka nikaangukia hao IP. Nikawauliza kwani mnaniulia mtoto? Kwani mnaniulia na mtoto wangu ni mtoto wa shule na mnamtoa kwa nyumba hajaenda kwa barabara hata hajashika mawe, hajaenda maandamano. Kwani mnafunja mlango mnamtoa kwa nyumba?
The mother claimed the son had nothing to do with the rows witnessed here in the slum in the first few days. He did not even vote during the just concluded general election. His mistake was being in the house last night.
Watu wamejifungia mlango tena wanabomoa milango. Sheria inasema hivyo kweli. Niliwauliza hiyo ni sheria, mnaua mtoto wangu, mmeua mtoto wangu.
The son succumbed to his injuries this morning. The mother claiming he was dragged from the house, beaten senseless and left to die.
Kutupatia gasi watu wote wakapotelea ndani ya manyumba. Kupotelea ndani, sasa wakapata hapa kuna mtu anaweza kamata. Wakaanza kugonga kila mlango. By that time nilikuwa kwa ile duka yangu. Mimi sio unajua hiyo kwa hiyo duka kuna mwanya kidogo hivi naona vile na behave. Sasa wakapiga mlango yule ya mwingine pale juu akaingia ndani ukijana wakamtoa wakamweka viboko.
Across in Kibera after days of heavy gunfire, running battles and tears, and its wake, revelations of nights of terror in the hands of security forces. This shop has remained closed for the past 5 days now. The owner is nursing gunshot injuries in a city hospital. Residents here say the bullet that nearly killed their neighbor left a mark on this structure that has now remained shut. Residents here claiming the men who showed up with guns and bullets were not your ordinary rungu welding anti-riot police officers.
Na watu walikuwa marasta, walikuwa wamevaa nguo ya polisi lakini wako na marasta na wengine na mandefu.
Anaenda kunipiga ile misu ikasikia kitu na majuu ndio katoka papa kidogo. Nikamwambia baba yangu hata hao wanatupiga hata kama ni polisi sijui wakina nani wanatupiga hivi.
The group, the residents say, moves around during the night in a white van in the full presence of anti-riot police officers. Across the slum is yet another encounter. Miriam Akinyi claims she also came across men armed with guns.
Walikuwa Mungiki. Juu walikuwa wamevuga dredi, wameshika hivi madredi na wamevaa manguo za polisi. Sasa wanadanganya ati hao ni mapolisi na kumbe ni Mungiki.
The National Police Service now denies there is a parallel group of people moving from one house to the other, flashing out innocent residents and maiming them.
I remember a journalist calling me at 3 a.m. that Mathare is under attack by Mungiki. That is propaganda. Somebody is spreading propaganda to instill fear in our people.
But who then is this group that has all the signs of a killer squad, unleashing wanton terror on ordinary citizens? But despite downplaying the presence of the group in the city's two largest slums, residents of Kibera and Mathare slums are still coming under attacks from police officers using live bullets. The police claim those who have been shot are criminals masquerading as protesters. Delifa Mwafu told KTN's Crime and Investigations Desk anti-riot police officers were at it again last night.
Kusikia hivi tukaanza kusikia marisasi zikilialia, watu wanapiga mamawe juu ya mabati. Ndo kuna vijana wengine huko nyuma wanasema tia wanamshamusha watu, amkeni mkimbie. Sasa ile mimi kuamka, mtoto alikuwa anasumbua. Nataka nibadilishe pampers. Ile nenda kuchukua pampers, nikasikia risasi ya kwanza ikalia na nguvu. Ya pili ndo ikagonga hiyo ukuta wangu. Ikagonga na nguvu kabisa, ikanipiga mkono, ndo ikanipiga kwa mkono alafu ikaruka kwa kitanda. Nikashtuka, nikasema wacha nikaona hii labda ni mawe ndo imenigonga. Kwenda kushika nikasikia kitu ni moto, nikatupa chini. Sasa kunajua kama ni risasi.
The National Police Service has denied the use of live bullets and deaths, with residents in the slums now insisting they have seen people suspected to have been killed or maimed being carried away by police officers.
This is shooting normal, naona. Awase wa shoot juu. Wana shoot a common mwananchi, naona. Na at the end of the day, Bombo, kuna wase walimadwa. There are some 2 guys who were killed, and I took a picture of that through my phone. And the pictures were not that clear, but then those were...
Calm has returned to the country's 2 largest slums at the moment, but residents here say it is calm during the day until the dark reveals the terror never witnessed before. Enson Sarigo, KTN Prime.
All right, and that continues to be the situation in Mathare and Kibera. All right, our big question this evening on Kivumbi 2017. Even as, like we said, Raila Odinga, who's the NASA presidential flag bearer, said he will make known his statement tomorrow, but they've made it clear that they're not going to the Supreme Court. The question we're asking you tonight is, should NASA reconsider its decision against the Supreme Court option? Should NASA reconsider its decision against the Supreme Court option? Please send your thoughts in. Start with a yes or no if you're sending us an SMS, followed by your brief comment to the number 22155, which is absolutely free, by the way. You can also tweet me at Yvonne Okwara and at KTN News. The hashtag to use tonight, as always, is Kivumbi 2017. I will take a look at some of your views throughout this live newscast. All right, so let's take a look at some more news tonight. President Uhuru Kenyatta says Kenyans are free to stage peaceful protests over the poll outcome. He spoke after his meeting with the Assumption of Office team on his first such meeting following his re-election.
I truly believe that there is no single Kenyan anywhere who wants to continue to see violence, looting, and demonstrations that end up destroying property. But if, like I said, there are those who are aggrieved and feel that they are not willing to accept, there are also constitutionally laid down procedures that they can use to be able to express their dissatisfaction while allowing the many millions of Kenyans who wish to continue with their normal life to do so. And mine is really just that appeal. And the police are willing and ready. Say you want to have a demonstration in this place at this time, organize it with the police. You don't need my permission or Jubilee's permission. It's there in the law. Just do it peacefully, orderly. Don't interrupt the lives of other Kenyans and express your view. That is allowed, and nobody has a problem. But as a government, we will not allow loss of life, destruction of property, and looting, because many, many millions of Kenyans also are desirous to go about their business as before.
And all of this comes as the Kenya Red Cross Society confirms that it has served at least 108 people who were injured in confrontations with police across the country, with 8 having suffered gunshot wounds. Several people were injured after a section of supporters of opposition leader Raila Odinga took to the streets to protest poll results after IEBC announced Uhuru Kenyatta as the president-elect in the just concluded elections. Secretary General Abbas Gulet said Red Cross staff have been deployed in Kisumu, Nairobi's Mathare and Kibera areas.
The bigger fallout was once the presidential results were announced here in Nairobi on Friday night. That's when we saw the first activities of serious violence in Kibera, in Mathare, in Kisumu, in Homa Bay, and in Migori. And I want to say, since then up to now, we as Kenya Red Cross have responded to 108 injuries. Of that 108, the breakdown is there, clear: 55 in Nairobi, 15 in Kisumu, 12 in Garissa, 3 in Homa Bay, 2 in Mombasa, 2 in Siaya, and 1 in Kakamega. And what are these injuries? These injuries are from, you have head injuries, you have gunshot wounds, you have fractures, soft tissue injuries. Last night, I think, was the height of what you may then call fake news in terms of the messages that were going around and the calls that the Red Cross was getting. I and my staff and our 24-hour call center here asking us to go to Mathare and to Dandora to pick up people who are being slaughtered and being butchered and being killed. And I want to say the truth of the matter is, those who are issuing out those stories, when you question them, there's no evidence, and it wasn't true. So as a Kenyan, leave alone in my role as Secretary General of the Red Cross, I just want to urge my fellow countrymen and country citizens, let us be sincere to one another. Let us be careful with what we say, because it's not helping anybody.
Now, anyone opposed to the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta has only 4 days left to file a petition at the Supreme Court, as the 7-day window following the declaration of Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto as the winners elapses this Friday. And as our political affairs reporter Murimi Mwangi now tells us, President Kenyatta has exactly 26 days to convene the first sitting of Parliament if his election is not challenged in court.
Declare Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta as President-elect and Honorable William Ruto as the Deputy President-elect.
It was the declaration that officially opened the mandatory 7 days window, during which anyone opposed to the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto can file a presidential election petition at the Supreme Court, the deadline being Friday this week.
If the petition is allowed, then we will have to go for another re-election for the office of the president and the deputy president. If the petition is dismissed, then on the Tuesday next after the 7 days, the procedure for swearing in of the president and the deputy president has to be followed.
In the absence of any petition so far, Article 141, subsection 2 of the 2010 Constitution directs that the president-elect shall be sworn in on the first Tuesday, following the 14th day after the declaration of the presidential election.
If all things go as of now, and there's no petition submitted to the Supreme Court by the opposition, and nobody challenges the presidential elections, the president must be sworn in by the 29th of August.
Barring an eventuality on account of an election petition being filed in the Supreme Court that the committee set out under the Assumption to Office of the President Act will constitute an ad hoc arrangement to enable the swearing in.
Should any presidential election petition be filed at the Supreme Court before Friday this week, then Article 140, subsection 2 of the Constitution directs that the court shall hear and determine the dispute in 14 days. In the absence of any petition, then Kenyatta has exactly 26 days to convene the first sitting of Parliament, whose notice must by law be published in the Kenya Official Gazette. MP-elect for Garissa Township and the National Assembly Majority Leader in the 11th Parliament, Aden Duale, says the Jubilee Party legislators-elect could meet this week to begin deliberations on the choice of speakers, deputy speakers, and the holders of other key positions in the two houses. But the Kenyan opposition may have to go back to the drawing board after the ruling party and its affiliates expanded their numbers in parliament to near absolute majority, with Jubilee Party and its affiliates clinching 194 of the 337 National Assembly seats, compared to the 108 that went to the opposition, with 27 of the 47 senators being voted in on Jubilee and its affiliates, compared to the 20 elected on NASA affiliate parties, a state of affairs which observers say could complicate the opposition's watchdog role.
If I add the number of independents from our strongholds, and I add the number of nominated members of parliament we are going to get, then we will control 2/3 of the House.
Therein lies the problem. We are likely going to have a situation whereby a dominant party will determine the affairs of the country for the next 5 years.
Now, even as the standoff persists over the outcome of the presidential poll, August 8th goes in history as a momentous day when Kenyans elected independent candidates in numbers, and the next 5 years are no doubt a defining journey for Kenya. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
President Kenyatta's re-election now offers him a second chance to review his path to a greater legacy. In his first term, the president received stinging corruption claims, among other unflattering issues. So will he overcome this reputation to build a better legacy in his second term? Speaking to our reporter Chris Thairu, the president's allies say Kenyans can prepare for a more strict, focused and productive Kenyatta era.
Asante sana, anakabidhiwa.
April the 9th, 2013, and then 51-year-old Uhuru Kenyatta lifted the Kenyan presidential trophy amidst the burden of commitment to the International Criminal Court, where he, together with his deputy, were facing crimes against humanity. Fast forward to 11th August 2017, and Uhuru Ruto were yet again declared as president and deputy president-elect, staring at another 5 years in office. But just what legacy awaits President Kenyatta at the end of his final term in 2022?
You will see him in his true colors. Right now, he was still wooing the chick. Now the chick will be in the house. Now she will see the man in his true colors. And the guy will nyorosha this place. That you can take to the bank. Oh, yeah. He's been a bit kid gloves. What I'm saying is that in the next administration, it will be gloves off, to be bare knuckles. And it doesn't matter whether you're his brother, whether you're his friend, whether you're who.
Uhuru Kenyatta's second term will be an extension of his transformation agenda, which was pegged on the 10 years of his rule. The railway has reached Nairobi. So President Uhuru Kenyatta will make sure these 5 years the railway reaches Malaba. 2, President Uhuru Kenyatta has done over 6,000, 7,000 tarmac road in his first year. we expect him to do another double of that, another 10,000 kilometers of road.
But President Kenyatta prepares to begin his second term in office at a time when the country is locked in a bitter standoff among supporters of his political rival, opposition leader Raila Odinga, who has rejected the results. Analysts argue that President Kenyatta faces the test of his lifetime, winning the hearts of the over 6 million voters who voted for Odinga, a move deemed as critical towards uniting the 45 million Kenyans behind his presidency.
Both major candidates have a lot of work to do. I think for Uhuru is to remain conciliatory, and I think he should visit every part of the country. You know, he will be inaugurated. There's no question about that. But that's not the issue. The issue is to reach out, to go to different parts of the country.
Although the president went down in history as the only president to have sent nearly half of his cabinet packing due to allegations of graft, he still faces the burden of dealing with his close associates linked to corruption and rejuvenating key state agencies in the fight against graft.
If anybody thinks they can walk in the final term of Uhuru with anything that smells of corruption, I'm very sorry of him. I know this is somebody who will go even after his own friends like David Morade. If I ever get involved in anything in the next term, that will be his legacy. He will jail all of us. That you can take to the bank.
With a presidency that enjoys majority of members in both the Senate and the National Assembly, analysts state that it will be easy for him to push the transformative agenda legally by sponsoring more bills. Top on his agenda will be to continue with the standard gauge railway line from Naivasha to Kisumu and eventually to Malaba border.
For us, the Jubilee administration, we want to finish the transformation agenda of unifying the people, of building roads, of creating an equitable society, of making sure that the elderly and the vulnerable in our society are taken care of making sure that security is a top priority, both internally and externally.
Because I believe his agenda will be his legacy issues, which will be law, order, discipline, and the fight against corruption.
Even as the new government comes into office, succession politics, which reared its head during the party primaries, could prove a headache for President Kenyatta as he seeks to lead a united party. As the presidents await to be sworn in for his second and final term in office, the main focus will be on his development track record, even as Kenyans await to see the kind of legacy he will be leaving behind come 2022. Chris Dairo, KTN News in Nairobi.
So we're asking you tonight whether NASA should reconsider its options, especially with the Supreme Court. Remember, they have said they are not going to the Supreme Court. And so our big question tonight on Kivumbi 2017, should NASA reconsider its decision against the Supreme Court option? On Twitter, the hashtag is Kivumbi 2017. At Olele2, you say simple no. It's the same game that was played in 2013. Concerned Kenyans, no, once bitten, twice shy. That system failed him once, they will do it again. Ben Gikonyo says yes, they should, because it can compromise national security. Ryan Wasili Samir says yes. In fact, the Supreme Court is the only way to refute an election. Any other won't be favorable to Kenyans. Here's an interesting one from Mike Mtambo. Says NASA should go to court. NASA should go the court way in future. Sorry, let me start that again. NASA should go the court way. In future, elections should be avoided as they are costly, time-wise, economically, and very painful to Mwananchi. That's an interesting thought. Keep yours coming in as well at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara. I'll be taking a look at more as we continue with our news updates here on Kivumbi 2017 this evening. We're taking a quick break, but we have much more when we return.